She answered a call in Arabic before a powerful man, and hours later, received an order that would change her life. Don't let her leave. What begins as work turns into obsession, a secret, and a forbidden love that defies titles, power, and destiny. A story of intense romance, mystery, and passion where the truth comes at a high price, and loving can be dangerous. Before we begin, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and hype the video to help the channel grow. Maya had a theory about London's public transportation. The Line 25 buses were delayed in direct proportion to how urgently you needed them. On that December night, with her uniform wrinkled in her backpack and her hair refusing to cooperate, she proved her hypothesis for the third time that month. 23 minutes late. 23 minutes, that meant the difference between employment and unemployment. She ran through the streets of Stratford toward the tube, her breath forming white clouds in the freezing air, her shoes pounding the wet asphalt in a rhythm that echoed the growing panic in her chest. The phone vibrated in her pocket. It was probably her Aunt Sarah wanting to know if she'd be home in time for dinner. Or worse, St. Mary's Hospital with news about her grandmother. It couldn't be the hospital. Not today. The tube was packed as usual. Maya squeezed between a man smelling strongly of beer and a woman talking loudly on the phone in Polish. She closed her eyes and did what she always did when anxiety threatened to overflow. She counted in Arabic, Wahid, Ithnien, Thalatha. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory, soft and steady. When the world gets too heavy, Habibi, come home. Return to the language your soul understands. But the language her soul understood didn't pay bills in British pounds. The Sapphire Grill sat on a prime corner near Piccadilly Circus, the kind of place where people didn't look at the prices on the menu because they simply didn't have to. Maya pushed through the back door at 6:47 p.m., 13 minutes late, and found Joseph with his arms crossed and that expression that promised no mercy. "You're assigned to the private lounge," he said bluntly. He shoved a tray of crystal glasses into her hands before she could apologize. VIP group, Arabic businessman, very important. Delegation of investors. No mistakes, Maya. No delays. She didn't even have time to fully change into her uniform before being practically shoved into the restaurant. The main dining room was full, the murmur of conversations in 5 different languages mixed with the discreet clinking of silver cutlery. Joseph guided her through the back, toward the reserved area. Double doors of dark oak, gold handles, a silence that contrasted violently with the world outside. Maya took a deep breath, adjusted her apron, and pushed open the doors. What she found on the other side took her breath away for reasons that had nothing to do with her run. 6 men in impeccable suits occupied a long mahogany table, talking in Arabic with a mixture of formality and familiarity that she recognized immediately. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over everything, and the air smelled of expensive spices and power. But it was the man at the head of the table who held her attention like a magnet. 30-something, perhaps. Dark skin, wavy black hair with that controlled volume that only money can buy. Green eyes that assessed everything around him with a disturbing intensity. There was something in his posture, in the way the others leaned in slightly when he spoke, that screamed authority without needing words. And when those eyes landed on Maya, she felt an electric shock run through her entire spine. She served the drinks with hands that shook slightly, avoiding direct eye contact, but feeling the weight of that attention on her with every movement. The men continued talking in Arabic, discussing numbers, contracts, names of companies she didn't recognize. She understood every word, of course. She grew up hearing her grandmother speak like that her whole life, but she kept her expression neutral, professional, as if she were just another waitress serving just another dinner, until the phone in her pocket began to vibrate, 3 times in a row, insistent. St. Mary's Hospital. Maya's heart raced. She stepped away a few paces, trying to, be discreet, but the phone wouldn't stop. On the 4th time, she couldn't take it anymore. She answered in a raspy whisper, in Arabic, without thinking. "Hello? What happened to Grandma?" The nurse's voice was tense, professional, laden with that gentle efficiency that hospital staff learned to adopt. Her blood pressure had risen dangerously. They needed to change the medication, but the NHS didn't cover it. The tests the doctor ordered were urgent. £3,000, the nurse said, and Maya closed her eyes. "I'll find a way," she replied, her voice steady even with despair tearing through her. Just don't stop the treatment, please. When she hung up, her hands trembling and her stomach churning, she noticed the silence. She turned slowly. 6 pairs of eyes were fixed on her, but mostly his eyes, the man at the head of the table, observing her with an intensity that made the air leave her lungs. There was something in his expression she couldn't decipher, something between surprise, curiosity, and a recognition that made no sense at all. The rest of the dinner was psychological torture worthy of Hitchcock. Maya served the dishes trying to make herself invisible, but she felt that gaze glued to her with every step, every breath, every movement. She dropped a napkin while serving dessert and had to lean down to pick it up, nearly hitting her head on the table in the process. One of the men stifled a laugh. She felt her cheeks catch fire. When the men finally stood up to leave, she breathed a sigh of relief and began stacking the plates, hurried to get out of there, to go back to Stratford, to forget that look had ever existed. But then Joseph appeared, nervous, adjusting his tie. Maya, Mr. Al-Sayed asked for you to come up to the executive office now. Her blood froze. Excuse me? The office on the mezzanine. He's waiting. A client calling a waitress for a private conversation. It was never, ever a good sign. Maya climbed the stairs with shaky legs, her mind racing in 1,000 directions. A complaint about the phone, about the napkin, about the wrinkled clothes, about everything. The door was ajar. She pushed it open slowly. The man was standing by the window, his back turned, hands in his pockets. When he turned around, the impact of those eyes hit her again, but this time there was something else there. Determination, interest, a decision already made. Close the door, he said in perfect English with a subtle British accent. And sit down. She obeyed because there wasn't much of a choice. I need a translator, he said bluntly. 2 weeks. You're hired. Maya stared at him for 3 full seconds. I'm sorry, what? I heard you on the phone. Lebanese Arabic, perfect. No British accent, no hesitation. He pulled out a chair and sat, gesturing to hers in a way that was more order than invitation. You think in the language you don't translate mentally. It's exactly what I need. Sir, I think there's a mistake. The words came out fast, stumbling over each other. I'm not a professional translator. I'm a waitress. I have no certification. I've never worked in this field. I don't even know where to start. He leaned back in his chair, interlacing his fingers over the desk, and stared at her with that disturbing intensity that seemed to see through masks. You argued with the nurse in 2 languages without realizing it. You switched between Arabic and English without losing your train of thought. That is exactly what I need in my negotiations. He opened a drawer and pulled out a thick envelope, placing it on the desk between them, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Simultaneous translation contract. 2 weeks, 8 hours a day. Availability for evening events when necessary. All expenses covered. Transportation, meals, appropriate attire. Maya looked at the envelope as if it were a bomb about to explode. And the payment? He slid a piece of paper across the desk. Daily salary, £2,000. Advance, £15,000 upon signing. The figures danced before her eyes. Too absurd to be real. £15,000 paid for her grandmother's tests, the 3 overdue electricity bills, the rent due next week. £2,000 a day meant more than her entire monthly salary. For 2 weeks. It was too tempting, and precisely for that reason, she was suspicious. And what exactly do I need to do besides translate? The question came out heavy with a distrust she didn't try to hide. She had heard too many stories of young women receiving proposals that were too good to be true. He seemed to understand exactly what she was thinking. His expression softened, almost imperceptibly. Translate conversations in business meetings. Accompany me to formal dinners where there will be discussions in Arabic and English. Be available for document translation when necessary. He paused. There will always be other people present. You will never be alone with me in a compromising situation, and if at any moment you feel uncomfortable, the contract can be rescinded with proportional payment. He pulled a pen from his jacket's inner pocket and placed it on the contract. I am many things, but I am not the type of man who needs to coerce employees. If I am offering this amount, it is because your work is worth that to me. Maya looked at the contract. She looked at the pen. She looked at his face, searching for the hidden catch. All she saw was absolute seriousness. Her brain screamed that this was madness, that normal people don't get offers like this, that something had to be wrong. But her heart, or perhaps her desperation, whispered that her grandmother needed those tests, that the rent wouldn't pay itself, that opportunities like this don't knock twice. She picked up the pen. Her hand shook so much she almost couldn't sign. Went due. She finally scribbled her name on the dotted line. She had the distinct feeling that she had just changed the course of her own life irreversibly. He took the contract, tucked it into a folder, and then pulled a smaller envelope from his pocket. "This is the advance, £15,000 in cash. You can count it if you like." Maya opened it and saw the stacks of £50 notes. More money together than she had ever seen in her life. She closed the envelope quickly, as if the money might disappear. "Tomorrow at 7 in the morning, a driver will pick you up at the address on the contract. Wear something professional, but it doesn't need to be anything extravagant yet. We will provide appropriate clothing during the week." He stood up, extending his hand. When Maya shook it, she felt an electric shock travel up her entire arm. "Welcome to the team, Maya." She went down the stairs in a trance, the envelope heavy in her backpack, the whole world slightly out of focus. Only when she was on the tube back to Stratford, squeezed between strangers, did she realize something. He knew her name. He had called her by name, but she was absolutely certain she had never told him. The alarm clock rang at 5 in the morning. Maya had already been awake for an hour, staring at the ceiling of the tiny bedroom she shared with her Aunt Sarah in Stratford. The envelope with the money was hidden under the mattress, and she had already set aside £3,000 to take to St. Mary's Hospital after her first day of work. The black dress pants and white shirt she used for interviews years ago were ironed and hanging on the wardrobe door. She looked at them with a mixture of hope and dread. They weren't the clothes of someone who worked for men like Adam al-Sayed, but they were what she had. Sarah appeared at the door at 5:30 in her bathrobe, holding 2 cups of tea. "I couldn't sleep well," she said, handing one to Maya. "I kept thinking about whether or not you signed a contract with the devil. If I did, at least the devil pays well. That doesn't reassure me one bit." Maya took a sip of the tea, feeling the heat go down her throat. "I know it sounds crazy. Believe me, I know. But Grandma needs those tests, and I need to believe there are still honest people in the world who make honest proposals. People, yes. Men who appear out of nowhere offering £15,000? Less so. But Sarah helped her fix her hair anyway, pinning it into a professional bun that looked perfect on the 3rd attempt. When Maya looked at herself in the mirror, she almost didn't recognize herself. She looked like someone who could, perhaps, work for a millionaire Arabic businessman. The car arrived at 6:45, a black Mercedes with tinted windows, as out of place on the Stratford street as a swan among pigeons. The driver, a middle-aged man with an Eastern European accent, opened the rear door with a formal politeness that made her uncomfortable. Maya had never been inside a car like that. Leather seats that smelled new, air conditioning that worked perfectly, an absolute silence that isolated the outside world. The trip to Mayfair took 40 minutes in the morning traffic. She spent the entire time with sweaty hands, mentally reviewing business vocabulary in Arabic. When they stopped in front of the Dorchester, she had to take 3 deep breaths before she could get out of the car. The lobby was all marble and crystal chandeliers. She felt completely out of place. Adam met her near the elevators, impeccable in a gray suit that probably cost more than 6 months of her rent. He scanned Maya's outfit, a quick assessment that concluded adequate but insufficient, but he didn't comment. "Follow me." They went up to the 15th floor. When the doors opened, Maya found herself in a quiet hallway with thick carpet that muffled their footsteps. He stopped in front of a double door at the end, used his key card, and guided her into a suite that had been transformed into a temporary office. There was a huge desk with 3 computers, stacked files, a whiteboard covered in notes in Arabic, and 2 men already working there. "Maya, these are Thomas and Oscar, my partners in this venture." Thomas was older, maybe 50, with gray hair and gold-rimmed glasses. Oscar was younger, in his early 30s, with an easy smile that didn't reach his eyes. Both greeted Maya with cold, professional politeness without a drop of warmth. She noticed the looks exchanged between them. the poorly disguised distrust toward the waitress their boss had hired out of nowhere. "Today we have a 9 o'clock meeting with Jamil Harrington," Adam said, handing a thick folder to Maya. "Local businessman in the textile industry, a potential investor in the shopping center project. Read this in the next 40 minutes. It's a project summary, financial projections, technical terms that will come up. If you have any questions, ask me now." Maya sat in a corner and immersed herself in the reading. The project was ambitious, a luxury shopping center aimed at the Arabic community and a high-end public, with designer stores, themed restaurants, cultural space, and even a small integrated mosque. The budget was £150 million. The construction period was 2 years, and the projected return was 5. The numbers were astronomical. She tried to absorb everything, memorizing terms like internal rate of return and discounted cash flow in Arabic and English. When Jamil Harrington arrived at 9 sharp, Maya was already positioned discreetly beside Adam, with a small notebook and a pen in hand, in a professional posture she had copied from assistants in movies. Jamil was a robust man in his 60s, with a large belly, a thick mustache, and a wide smile. He greeted Adam with a warm hug, and then looked at Maya with surprise. "You brought a translator?" "Adam, my dear fellow, I've spoken Arabic since I was 5. Adam smiled, but there was coldness in the politeness. "I know that, Jamil, but I prefer that technical details be communicated without room for misunderstanding. Maya will ensure that every number, every deadline, every condition is understood perfectly in both languages." Jamil shrugged, amused by the excess of caution, and settled into the armchair. Maya discovered that simultaneous translation work was exhausting in ways she hadn't imagined. She needed not only to translate word for word, but to capture the tone, the intention, even the strategic pauses. Adam spoke in formal Arabic, almost poetic, with elaborate constructions that were a prepared speech. Jamil responded in colloquial English, full of London slang, expressions she needed to adapt for Arabic without losing the essence. There was a tense moment when they discussed the investment percentage. Maya noticed that Jamil was lying about the market value of an adjacent plot of land, inflating the numbers to justify a larger share of the profit. She hesitated for a fraction of a second, not knowing if she should just translate or warn Adam. She decided to translate faithfully, and she saw in his eyes that he had noticed the lie on his own, that he was testing Jamil's honesty, and the man had failed. When Jamil left 3 hours later, satisfied with a preliminary agreement that actually guaranteed nothing, Adam dismissed Thomas and Oscar with a casual gesture. They left exchanging glances. Maya was left alone with him in the heavy silence of the suite. "You noticed he lied about the land." She nodded nervously. "I thought about warning you, but my job is to translate faithfully, not to filter information." Adam approached. She resisted the urge to step back. "Your loyalty is to the one who pays you, Maya. If you notice someone is trying to deceive me, I want to know. Always, understood?" The order was clear, with no room for ambiguity. She agreed. And then he did something completely unexpected. He smiled, truly for the first time, transforming his entire face, revealing a dangerous charm that was hidden under the professional mask. "You did well. Better than well." He took a credit card from his wallet and held it out to her. "You're going to need appropriate clothes for the rest of the week. We have a gala. Dinner tomorrow night plus 3 more formal events. Buy what you need. It's a professional investment, not a personal gift." Maya took the card as if it were going to burn her fingers. She looked at his name engraved in gold letters, without any printed limit. "How much can I spend?" "Enough so that no one questions whether you belong in the places we are going to be." Maya had never stepped into a designer store in her life. Selfridges felt like another planet. Illuminated windows, displaying dresses that cost what she earned in a year. Impeccable saleswomen, discreet security guards watching every move. She entered the first boutique with Adam's card burning in her pocket, and the saleswoman, a woman of about 40 with platinum blonde hair and perfect red nails, looked her up and down with poorly disguised disdain. "Can I help you?" The tone was polite but icy, laden with judgment about her simple clothes and old bag. Maya took a deep breath, remembering his words about professional investment. "I need clothes for business meetings and formal events. Open budget. The change in the saleswoman's expression was instantaneous and almost comical. Her eyes widened, the smile appeared, and suddenly she was all kindness and attention. 2 hours later, Maya left with 8 heavy bags, 4 elegant business suits in shades of navy blue and gray, 3 party dresses in classic cuts that were flattering without drawing unnecessary attention, 2 pairs of high heels that cost more than the rent of her apartment, an Italian leather bag, and even a set of discreet jewelry that the saleswoman insisted were essential. She looked at the receipt in the taxi and felt dizzy. £23,000 in clothes in one day for her. It was absolute madness. The following days established a strange routine. The driver would pick Maya up at 7, take her to the office suite, and the day was filled with endless meetings. Arabic and, British businessmen paraded through the Dorchester, each trying to extract the best deal from Adam, and she translated every word, every charged silence, every veiled threat disguised as kindness. She was getting good at it, anticipating sentences, understanding not only what was said but what was left between the lines. Adam began to trust her more. He asked for her opinions after the visitors left, listening when she pointed out inconsistencies or suspicious behaviors. Thomas and Oscar, initially cold, began to treat her with a clingy respect of those who realized she had the boss's ear. But it was in the moments between meetings that things became dangerous. When it was just her and Adam in the suite, reviewing documents or preparing the next presentation, conversations drifted from the professional to the personal. He asked about her grandmother, how she was responding to the new treatment the expensive tests had allowed. Maya told him about the woman's emotional call, crying with gratitude, and she saw something soften in his face. "Family is everything," he said one afternoon, his voice heavy with an unexplained weight. "Money, business, power. None of it matters if you have no one to share it with." There was a repressed pain in those words, a wound that hadn't healed. Maya wanted to ask, but she didn't dare. On the 5th night, there was a charity dinner at the Dorchester itself. Maya went down from the room Adam had insisted on, booking for her. To facilitate logistics, he had said, and she hadn't argued because going back to Stratford every night was exhausting. Wearing one of the new dresses, navy blue, an elegant cut that flattered her silhouette without being flashy, hair down in natural waves, makeup done by a professional Adam had insisted on hiring. When she arrived at the hall, he was already waiting. He stopped in the middle of a conversation when he saw her. He looked, really looked. "You look beautiful." The 3 simple words made her cheeks heat up. They entered the main hall together and heads turned. They formed a pair that drew attention. He, imposing and powerful. She, beautiful in a discreet but impactful way. The two of them talking in Arabic as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Joseph, the manager of the Sapphire Grill, was there serving champagne for another event in the same hotel. He saw Maya and almost dropped the tray. She nodded discreetly, amused by his shocked expression. During dinner, Adam introduced her to dozens of people as my translator and cultural consultant. She translated conversations with Arabic and British businessmen, balancing the two worlds with growing skill. But there was a moment when the night almost fell apart. An unpleasant businessman, a man of about 50, with a loud voice and an invasive posture, made a comment in Arabic, thinking she didn't understand. Something vulgar about her body. A suggestion that she was Adam's companion, not an employee. A crude innuendo dripping with disrespect and cheap sarcasm. Maya froze with her glass of water halfway to her mouth, the blood rushing to her face. Before she could decide whether to ignore the offense or confront it, Adam responded in Arabic so icy that the surrounding temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "You will apologize to her right now, immediately, or I personally guarantee that no Arabic bank in London will finance another cent of your failed projects." There was an absolute silence in the room. The man paled, realizing he had gone too far, and stammered pathetic apologies while looking at his plate. Adam stood up and held his hand out to Maya. "We're leaving." She let him guide her out of the hall, her heart hammering, feeling the stares of everyone present glued to her back. In the car, the silence was thick. Maya looked out the window, her hands interlaced in her lap, trying to process what had happened. "You didn't have to do that," she finally murmured. "It was nothing I couldn't have handled on my own." Adam continued looking out the window on the other side, his jaw tense, his hands clenched into fists on his thighs. No one disrespects someone who works for me. No one. It doesn't matter who they are, how much money they have, what connections they flaunt. There was something in his voice, a fierce protection that went far beyond the professional. It made Maya's heart race for reasons that had nothing to do with the incident. When the car stopped in front of the Dorchester, Adam finally faced her. The light from the street lamps cast shadows on his face, but his eyes shone intense. You did perfectly well today, as always. The praise was simple, but its weight was enormous. Maya got out of the car with shaky legs. When she looked back before entering the hotel, he was still watching, and for the first time she admitted to herself the truth she had been trying to deny for days. This had stopped being just work a long time ago. It was becoming dangerously and irredeemably personal. The next day, during a particularly tedious meeting with an accountant in the city, Maya noticed something strange. The accountant, a serious man in his 60s, referred to Adam as "Your Excellency" in formal Arabic. Not once, but 3 times throughout the conversation. Maya translated literally into English without thinking much about it. But later in the car, her stomach tightened with a late realization. Excellency wasn't a term used for ordinary businessmen. It was reserved for members of a royal family, high-ranking diplomats, ministers. She turned to Adam, who was answering emails on his phone. "Why did the accountant call you Excellency?" The question came out more accusatory than she intended. Adam didn't look up from the screen. Old customs. Some people of his generation use excessive formality with anyone who has money. It means nothing more than exaggerated respect. The answer was smooth, reasonable, perfectly logical. But Maya didn't believe it. There was something in the way he had avoided her gaze, how his fingers grew tense over the phone for a fraction of a second. He was lying, or at least omitting a significant truth. But she didn't press, because she was still his employee, because crossing certain lines could mean losing a job she desperately needed, because she was afraid of what she might find if she dug too deep. That night, alone in the hotel room, Maya took her phone and searched Adam al-Sayed on Google. The results were frustratingly vague. Saudi businessman, investments in real estate development and technology, some photos at charity events, mentions in business magazines. But there was a huge hole in his timeline. Between 2018 and 2020, nothing. As if he had disappeared from the world for 2 years. She found an old article from 2019 that mentioned family tragedy and private mourning. But when she clicked the link, the page no longer existed. Maya tried other paths. But it was as if someone had purposefully erased a large part of his life from the internet. Rich people left tracks. It was inevitable. But Adam seemed to have cleaned his with calculated care. She stared at the phone screen for a long time, her stomach churning with a growing feeling that she was getting involved with something or someone much more complicated than she had imagined. And the scariest part? She wasn't sure if she wanted to stop. The following week began with a gray Monday, typical of London in December. Maya no longer felt completely lost in his world. She knew the schedule, the routine. She knew how Adam liked his coffee in the morning, double espresso, no sugar, and that he became irritated when meetings were delayed. She also knew that he had a habit of running his hand through his hair when he was concentrated, that his eyes grew darker when something bothered him, that he smiled differently when he was being polite and when he was genuinely amused. She was noticing too many details, and that frightened her. Thomas and Oscar talked to her normally now, included her in inside jokes, asked for her opinion on presentations. She was becoming part of the team. This should have been comforting, but there were strange moments that bothered her, conversations that stopped abruptly when she entered the room, glances exchanged between Adam and his partners that carried meanings she couldn't grasp. There were secrets being kept from her, and it created a mental itch that wouldn't go away. On Tuesday afternoon, Maya returned from a meeting with a food import businessman and found Adam on the phone, speaking in Arabic, fast and low. She caught fragments as she got water from the small table. She can't know yet. When the time is right, it's better to keep it this way for now. He hung up abruptly when he realized she was there. The transition was too sudden to seem natural. His eyes met hers for a fraction of a second, and there was something there. Guilt, perhaps, or fear of being discovered. Did you get the information about the suppliers? The question was casual, professional, as if she hadn't heard anything. Maya handed over the papers, but the suspicion planted a deep root. He took the documents, and his fingers brushed hers, an accidental touch that lasted half a second too long. Adam pulled his hand back as if he had been burned. "Thank you," he said, his voice huskier than normal. And Maya realized something she had been denying for days. It wasn't just her who felt that electric tension in the air whenever they were in the same room. That night, Adam did something completely unexpected. He knocked on her room door at 7 o'clock, without Thomas, without Oscar, without a work agenda. "Dinner with me tonight?" Maya was in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, her hair tied in a messy bun, her face washed, completely unprepared for anything involving leaving the room. "Now, you don't need to dress up much. It's not a formal event, just dinner." He hesitated, and for the first time since they met, he seemed almost insecure. The mask of the confident businessman slipped for a second, revealing a man who was asking for something personal, not giving professional orders. Just the two of them. The invitation should have been simple, but it carried the weight of a decision that would change everything. Maya knew she should refuse, maintain professionalism, protect a heart that was already dangerously involved. But when she opened her mouth, what came out was, "Give me 20 minutes. The smile that lit up his face, genuine, without a mask, just Adam, made her stomach do a dangerous somersault. When she went down to the lobby, he was waiting without a suit. He wore dark jeans, a black cashmere sweater, a leather jacket. He looked younger this way, more accessible, less like a businessman and more like a man, and dangerously more attractive. His eyes found her across the lobby, and Maya saw the exact moment he saw her, the way his posture changed, how he stopped looking at his phone and just watched. It wasn't the professional gaze he used during meetings. It was something deeper, more personal, as if she were the only person in the world at that moment. "You look great," he said when she approached, and the simple compliment, said with that low, husky voice, made her stomach flip. Great. Not spectacular, not cinematic. Great. And somehow, coming from him, it sounded better than any rehearsed praise. She was wearing the simplest dress she had bought, dark blue, mid-length, nothing flashy. But the way he looked made it seem like it was the most beautiful one of all. They went in a different car. Not the formal Mercedes with a driver, but an Aston Martin that he drove himself, his hands steady on the wheel, the music low on the radio. Something Arabic she didn't recognize, but that was beautiful. "Where are we going?" "You'll see." Maya watched his profile illuminated by the streetlights, the strong line of his jaw, the way his fingers tapped lightly on the steering wheel to the music. "You're different today," she said without thinking. He looked at her quickly before returning his eyes to the road. "Different how?" "More relaxed. Less businessman, more like a normal person." He laughed, a short but genuine laugh. "Maybe it's because for the first time in weeks I don't have to pretend." "Pretend what?" "That I don't think about you when I should be being rational." The air left her lungs all at once. Adam didn't look at her when he said that. He kept his eyes fixed on the road, but Maya saw the tension in his shoulders, as if he had revealed more than he intended. She didn't know what to answer, so she stayed in silence, her heart beating wildly, while London passed by the window in a blur of lights. They drove in silence, but it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was charged, thick with unsaid things, but it wasn't unpleasant. Maya noticed they were heading toward Notting Hill, far from the fancy places they had frequented. The restaurant was small and intimate, hidden on a side street. A simple facade, just a discreet sign. The Cedar of London. The owner, a man in his 70s with a white mustache and kind eyes, recognized Adam immediately and received them with a warm hug. They spoke in Arabic, a dialect Maya recognized as pure Lebanese, and she heard the owner call Adam "my son," not in a formal sense, but affectionately, truly. "Samir, this is Maya," Adam said, switching to English. "The most stubborn and unbearable woman I've ever met." "Unbearable?" Maya arched an eyebrow. "In the best possible sense," Adam added, and there was genuine warmth in his eyes. Samir laughed, assessing the two with experienced eyes that clearly saw more than they wanted to show. "Welcome," he said simply, and guided them inside. The place was cozy. The walls were decorated with colorful tiles, traditional rugs, Old photographs of Beirut before the war. It smelled of spices and memories. They sat in a discreet corner in the back, away from the other tables. And for the first time in 2 weeks, there was no agenda. There were no documents. There was no next meeting. There was only the two of them. Adam ordered in Arabic without looking at the menu, and the owner smiled, knowing exactly what to bring. "Do you come here often?" Maya asked when they were alone. "Every time I'm in London. Samir met my mother when they were young, before she got married. He never treats me differently, and his food reminds me of a real home, not formal banquets." Maya realized it was the first time he had mentioned his mother. The first piece of truly personal information he offered without pressure. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table. "Is your mother still alive?" "Yes. And probably sending messages right now demanding reports on the meetings." He smiled, but there was genuine affection there. "She's complicated, she loves deeply, controls excessively, worries constantly, but she's real. She never pretends. That seems important to you. Real people." Adam stared at her for a long moment, and Maya felt the weight of that look to her bones. "It's essential to me. I live in a world where everyone wears masks, where every word is calculated, every gesture has a political purpose, where I never know if people like me or what I can offer." He paused, running his thumb along the rim of the water glass. "And then you appeared and called me a controlling boss in the first week. No filter, no fear of consequences." Maya felt her cheeks heat up. "I shouldn't have." "It was the most refreshing thing anyone has said to me in years." The conversation flowed easily after that. Natural, in a way it never flowed when they were working. Maya told him about her childhood divided between two worlds. British on the street and at school. Lebanese at home with her grandmother, who insisted on keeping traditions alive even thousands of miles from Beirut. "My mother died when I was 12. She had a brain aneurysm, out of nowhere. My grandmother came to live with us, and suddenly I had to translate everything. Bank letters, doctor's appointments, school meetings. I learned quickly that being a bridge between worlds is a full-time job." Adam listened with a rare kind of attention, not just waiting for his turn to speak, but truly absorbing every word. His eyes didn't leave her face once. "And your father? I never met him. My mother didn't talk about him. And after she died, the secrets died with her." Maya shrugged, as if it didn't hurt anymore, though it did. "My grandmother tried to fill the holes, but some questions remain unanswered forever. Maybe it's better that way," Adam said in a low voice. "Sometimes knowing everything about where we come from only makes it harder to decide where we're going." There was weight in those words, an untold story, a pain he carried and that Maya recognized because she also carried her own. She reached her hand across the table, almost touching his, but stopping millimeters short. "What are you running from, Adam?" He looked at her hand, at the tiny space separating them, and then, slowly, he closed the distance, interlacing his fingers with hers. The touch was electric, intimate in ways that went beyond the physical. "Expectations," he said finally, "of who I should be, how I should act, who I should be with. And sometimes I just want to be me. Not the title, not the name, not the responsibilities, just me." "And who are you?" Adam smiled, sad but honest. "I'm still finding out, but I think I start to remember when I'm with you." When the food arrived, Maya tasted it, and her eyes instantly filled with tears. The kibbeh, the labna, the tabbouleh, everything tasted exactly like what her grandmother made. Memories flooded in. Late afternoons in the tiny kitchen in Stratford, her grandmother teaching recipes while telling stories of a Beirut she never saw again. The smell of spices mixed with laughter. "It's perfect," she whispered, wiping away a tear that escaped. Adam squeezed her hand, which he was still holding. "Is your grandmother better?" Maya nodded, smiling through the tears. "The tests showed the new treatment is working. She's going to be okay. Thanks to you. Thanks to your work, you earned every cent." But he didn't let go of her hand, and Maya didn't pull back. They stayed like that, with fingers interlaced over the table, eating with their free hands, talking about the movies they loved, the songs that made them cry, the places they wanted to visit. Adam revealed that he loved jazz, that he watched Pixar movies in secret and cried at the end of Up, that he secretly preferred fish and chips to any gourmet Michelin food. You're destroying your image as a sophisticated businessman, Maya teased him. Good. I never liked that version of myself very much. And the way he looked at her when he said that, disarmed, hopeful, as if she were the person who, could accept him without the masks, made something break inside Maya. I'm falling in love with him, she realized with a shock of panic. I'm falling in love and this is going to destroy me. The moment was too perfect to last. Adam withdrew his hand slowly, as if he had to force himself to do it, and his expression became serious. Tomorrow is the last day of your contract. The words fell heavy between them, destroying the bubble they had built. Yes, and then you go back to the Sapphire Grill, Maya shrugged, trying to sound unconcerned and failing miserably. I have bills to pay, a life to live. Everything goes back to normal in 2 days. Normal. The word came out as if he were tasting it, finding it bitter. And what if I don't want it to go back to normal? Her heart raced. What are you saying? Adam leaned forward, fixing his eyes on her with an intensity that took her breath away. There was a decision there, as if he had spent days, perhaps weeks, fighting it and had finally surrendered. I'm saying these 2 weeks were unexpected in ways I didn't plan. You were unexpected. He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. I entered into this agreement looking for something I thought I had lost, and I found something completely different, something more real and terrifying. He feels it too, Maya realized. It's not just me. She felt hope and terror in equal parts. Adam, you're going back to your country in a few days. Your life is there. Mine is here. This always had an expiration date. And what if it didn't have to? What do you mean? He stood up abruptly, walked around the table, and sat in the chair next to her. The sudden proximity stole her breath. She could feel the heat of his body, the smell of his cologne mixed with something that was just Adam. What if I asked you to go with me? Go with you? Maya repeated, trying to understand. Where? To my home. My country. He paused, and for the first time he seemed genuinely nervous. Not as an employee, as someone important to me, someone I want in my life, really in my life. The implication was clear, even without naming exactly what it would be. Maya's heart hammered. She wanted to say yes. Every fiber of her being wanted to say yes. But the girl who grew up without a father, who learned early that people disappear, who built walls to protect herself, that girl screamed, "Careful. Are you crazy? I can't just abandon everything and move to the Middle East. My grandmother is getting better, but she still needs care. Aunt Sarah depends on me for the rent. My whole world is here." Adam held her face with both hands, forcing her to look at him. The touch was firm but gentle, and Maya felt tremors run through her entire spine. Then I'll stay a few months here, a few months there. Business gives me flexibility. I can make it work. Or I'll take your grandmother, your aunt, whoever you need. I offer top-tier medical treatment better than she has here, full structure. Adam, her voice failed. I know it sounds crazy. I know. 2 weeks ago, I didn't even know you, and now I'm asking you to turn my life upside down. His thumbs caressed her cheeks, and his eyes, those green eyes that were hard to hold, were so open it hurt to look. But Maya, I spent 6 years existing, just existing, fulfilling duties, following protocols, being what was expected, and then you walked into that room talking in Arabic on the phone, and for the first time in years I felt something other than emptiness. I can't be responsible for making you happy, she whispered. That's too much weight. I'm not asking you to make me happy. I'm asking for a chance for us to find out if we can be happy together. Maya shook her head, even with his hands still holding her face. It doesn't work like that. Not for people like me. Why not? Because you're... She stopped, realizing she didn't know exactly what he was. Businessman, prince, something in between. You're from a different world. And I'll always be a complication. In 6 months, a year, you'll realize the easy choice would have been better. And I'll be stuck in a strange place far from everything I know. His eyes darkened. Not with anger, but with something deeper. Determination, perhaps. Then give me the chance to prove you wrong. He moved closer, so close that Maya could count his heartbeats through his shirt. So close that if she moved just a few centimeters, their lips would touch. She saw when he thought about doing exactly that. She saw the moment his eyes drifted down to her mouth, the way he took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. His phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times, 4. He ignored it, focused on her, as if the rest of the world didn't exist. But the phone wouldn't stop. Adam cursed softly in Arabic, words that Maya understood perfectly, and that in any other context would have made her laugh. He grabbed the device, and when he saw the name on the screen, his entire expression changed. It closed, hardened, became an impenetrable mask. The transformation was so fast that Maya felt a shiver. "I need to take this. Sorry." He let go of her face, and Maya felt the absence of his touch as a physical loss. Adam stood up and walked out of the restaurant onto the street. Maya, through the window, saw him speaking in fast, tense Arabic. His body grew increasingly rigid, his free hand clenched into a fist, and then he ran his hand over his face. A gesture of exhaustion or despair, she didn't know which. When he returned 5 minutes later, the vulnerable Adam who had shared jazz and Pixar had vanished. The businessman Prince was back. The mask was firmly in place, but there was something in his eyes. Poorly hidden panic, as if the world he had tried to keep at a distance had just invaded. "I have to go. Now." He threw money on the table without counting it, much more than the bill would cost. "Family emergency, the driver is arriving and will take you back." "Adam, what happened?" Maya stood up, her hand finding his arm instinctively. "Is everything okay?" He looked at where she touched him, and for a second, just a second, the mask slipped again. "No," he said, and the raw honesty of that no hit her like a punch. "But I will solve it. I always solve it." And then he was leaving, calling someone, barking orders. In Arabic, Maya sat alone at the table, her food half-eaten, her heart racing, and she had the overwhelming feeling that something had just changed irrevocably, and not for the better. Samir, the owner, approached with worried kindness. He was always like this. When the family calls, he goes, no matter what he's doing or who he's with. "Have you known him for a long time?" "Since he was a boy. He came to London with his mother every summer. Always polite, always too serious for his age." Samir smiled sadly. "He carries the weight of many expectations. Sometimes I wonder if he has ever been truly free to choose what he wants." Those words echoed in Maya's head all the way back to the Dorchester. Free to choose what he wants. Adam wanted her. He had said so not with vague words, but with conviction. He had asked her to go with him, offered to rearrange his entire life to make it work. And then a phone call had destroyed everything in seconds. What kind of emergency made a man change completely in a matter of moments? And more importantly, why did Maya feel like she had just lost him before she even truly had him? When she reached her room, she found a white envelope under the door. Inside was a heavy card with initials engraved in gold in the corner. The handwriting was masculine, firm, without flourishes. "I apologize for the abrupt departure. I had urgent family matters. I will explain everything when I can. Please do not jump to conclusions. You changed something in me that I didn't know needed to change." Maya held the card for a long time, reading and rereading it, looking for hidden meanings between the lines. And then she noticed it. On the back of the card, in smaller letters, almost hidden, there was a single line. "Read aloud when you are alone." She frowned. She turned the card over. There was nothing else written. "Read aloud?" "Read what?" She examined the card against the light. Nothing. She turned it over again. She ran her fingers over the surface, looking for something embossed that she might have missed. Nothing, but the instruction was there, clear. "Read aloud when you are alone." Maya looked around the empty room, feeling slightly ridiculous, but too curious to ignore it. "Read aloud," she said out loud to the empty room. Nothing happened. She looked at the card again, turning it once more, looking for something she was clearly missing. And that was when she realized the initials engraved in the corner. They weren't just AA as she had initially thought. They were AAS, in letters intertwined so elaborately that the third letter almost disappeared into the design. Adam Al-Sayed. But why 3 initials? Businessmen used 2. Sometimes just the last name. 3 initials were a thing of royal families, of titles, of full names that carried lineages. Maya sat on the bed holding the card in her hand, her mind spinning. Who was Adam? Al-Sayed, really? And why, the more she discovered, the less she seemed to understand. She picked up her phone, opened Google, and this time she searched differently. Adam Al-Sayed Prince. The results that appeared made the air vanish from her lungs. The first link was from a Middle Eastern news site in Arabic, with a photo of him 3 years younger beside an older man who shared the same bone structure, the same eyes. The headline translated read, Prince Adam Al-Sayed returns. To business after family tragedy. Maya clicked the link. The page loaded slowly, and then it disappeared. 404 error. She tried other links, same result. As if someone were actively erasing tracks, removing information as she searched, but she had seen enough. Prince. Adam wasn't just a businessman, he was part of the Saudi royal family, and he had lied to her since the first day. The betrayal burned in her throat like acid, but beneath the anger was something else. Hurt. Because in the last few hours, she had allowed him to see parts of her that no one saw. She had told him about her mother, about the father she never knew, about the emptiness she carried, and he had been pretending to be someone else the whole time. I just want to be me, he had said. Not the title, not the name. Lies. All lies. Maya stared at the card in her hand, the mysterious instruction on the back, the initials that now made completely different sense. Read aloud. But read. What? What was she missing? And more importantly, when Adam returned, if he returned, would she have the courage to confront him with what she had discovered? Or would the fear of losing something that had barely begun be greater than the need for the truth? The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was an unknown number. International. Maya answered, her heart racing. Hello? There was silence on the other side. Only a breath could be heard. And then, a female voice, young, with a pronounced Arabic accent. Are you the translator Adam hired? Maya sat up straighter. Who are you? My name is Lisa, and I need to warn you about something before it's too late. The call dropped. Maya stared at the phone, her heart beating wildly, her mind exploding with questions. Lisa. The name Adam had never mentioned, but that she had heard Thomas whisper to Oscar in a conversation they stopped when she entered the room. Lisa. Who was she? Sister? Ex-girlfriend? Secret? Wife? The ghost of the past mentioned in the article about the family tragedy? And what did she need to warn about that was so urgent she called in the middle of the night? Maya looked at the card again, the words dancing in her vision. Read aloud when you are alone. Suddenly, the instruction didn't seem mysterious anymore. It felt like a warning, and Maya had the overwhelming feeling that once she discovered the whole truth about Adam Al-Sayed, nothing would ever be the same. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat on the hotel bed until 3 in the morning, holding Adam's card in one hand and her phone in the other, waiting for Lisa to call back. But the phone remained stubbornly silent, and the questions continued to multiply without answers. By the time the sun finally rose over London, she had already made a decision. If Adam wasn't going to tell the truth, she would find it out herself. At 7 in the morning, she put on one of her business suits and went down to the lobby. The driver was waiting, as always, but Maya dismissed him with firm politeness. I'm going to take care of some personal matters today. I appreciate it, but I don't need a ride. He hesitated, clearly under orders not to let her go alone, but Maya was already heading out the revolving door before he could argue. The tube was packed for the rush hour. She squeezed between strangers, the card in her pocket, burning like coal. Read aloud when you are alone. What on earth did that mean? She got off at South Kensington and walked to the public library. If there was information about Adam that had been erased from the internet, maybe it existed in physical archives, old newspapers, international magazines, something that couldn't be deleted with a click. She spent 3 hours scouring digitized newspaper archives and Middle Eastern publications until she finally found an Arabic Society magazine, a 2019 edition. The page was digitized but poorly scanned, full of artifacts that had likely prevented it from being properly indexed by search engines. And there he was, younger, his face lighter, without the weight he carried now. Beside him, a woman with dark eyes and a luminous smile. The caption, in Arabic, read, Prince Adam Al-Sayed Al-Faisal and his fiancée, Lisa Mansour, at a social event before the tragedy. Maya read it 3 times, her heart sinking deeper with every word. Fiancé. Lisa wasn't a sister. She wasn't an abstract ghost from the past. She was his fiancée, and something tragic happened. She kept searching, her hands trembling over the mouse. She found a brief mention in a British newspaper in the international section. 3 small paragraphs. Lisa Mansour, 26, fiancée of Prince Adam Al Sayed Al Faisal, passed away in a tragic car accident in Riyadh. The royal family has requested privacy during their mourning. The wedding was scheduled to take place in 6 months. The date of the news, March 2019, almost 6 years ago. Maya turned off the computer, her breathing difficult, her stomach churning. Everything began to make sense in painful ways. The way he had looked at her that first night at the Sapphire Grill. The recognition in his eyes when she spoke Arabic on the phone. The urgent hiring without explanation. He didn't hire me for my competence. He hired me because I remind him of someone he lost. Maya felt nausea rising in her throat. She stood up too, fast, scraping the chair against the floor. People looked at her and she didn't care. She stepped out of the library into the cold December air, taking a deep breath, trying not to collapse right there on the sidewalk. The phone rang. It was the number from the Dorchester. She answered with the steadiest voice she could muster. Hello? Maya. It was Thomas. Where are you? Adam is trying to locate you. Is he back? No, he called from Riyadh. He said he'll be back in 2 days and needs to speak with you urgently. 2 days. As if she could simply wait 2 days after discovering she was hired as a replacement for a dead woman. I'll stop by the hotel later to get my things. Your things? Maya, the contract hasn't officially ended yet. She hung up. She couldn't do this now. She couldn't pretend to be professional when everything inside her was falling apart. She took the tube back to Stratford, the journey feeling longer than ever. When she arrived at the apartment, Sarah was in the kitchen making tea. She looked at Maya and immediately realized she wasn't well. What happened? I was an idiot. Maya let her bag fall to the floor and collapsed onto the sofa. I was such an idiot, Aunt Sarah. She told her everything. The dinner, the invitation, the mysterious call from Lisa, the discovery in the library. Sarah listened in silence, and when Maya finished, she brought 2 mugs of tea and sat down beside her. Are you sure he only hired you because you remind him of this woman? What else could it be? Aunt Sarah, he looked at me as if he had seen a ghost on the first day, and now I know why. Or, Sarah said slowly, he looked at you like that because he felt something. And he's trying to process that feeling something again isn't betraying the memory of the one he lost. Maya shook her head. You don't understand. She died 6 years ago and he still hasn't gotten over it. How can I compete with a perfect memory? You don't compete. You are real. Memories are static, Maya. You are alive. You are complicated, imperfect. And maybe that's exactly what he needs. But Maya couldn't believe it. She spent the next day at the apartment, ignoring calls from the Dorchester, messages from Thomas, even a formal email from Oscar asking if everything was okay. Until on the second day at lunchtime, the doorbell rang. Maya opened the door expecting it to be a food delivery, and she found Adam. He looked different, unshaven, suit rumpled, eyes hollow with deep dark circles, as if he hadn't slept in 48 hours. Can I come in? Maya wanted to say no. She wanted to slam the door in his face and end it before it hurt more, but she stepped aside. Adam entered the apartment as out of place as a diamond in a street vendor's stall. He looked around, absorbing the details, the cramped kitchen, the worn sofa, the walls that needed painting. So this is where you really live. Disappointing compared to the Dorchester, I know. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. The silence grew heavy between them. Adam finally turned, and there was something close to desperation in his eyes. Why did you run away? I didn't run away. The contract ended. I went back to my life. Liar. The word came out hard. Something happened. What was it? Maya crossed her arms, keeping her armor firmly in place. I got a call from Lisa. The impact was instantaneous and devastating. Adam went completely still for 2 seconds, and then all color drained from his face. His eyes widened, not with casual surprise, but with something close to absolute panic. What? The word came out raspy, almost inaudible. He took a staggering step back as if he had been punched in the stomach. Lisa called you. When? What did she say? His hands were visibly shaking. He ran one over his mouth, across his forehead, trying to process it, clearly in shock. Maya, please tell me exactly what she said, word for word. The intensity of the reaction startled Maya. It wasn't just surprise, it was fear, real, visceral fear, as if the ground had disappeared from beneath him. She said she was Lisa, that she needed to warn me about something before it was too late. And then she hung up. Adam closed his eyes tightly, his jaw tense, his hands still shaking. My sister, he said, his voice coming out in threads. My blood sister, Lisa Al-Sayed. She's 17 and she shouldn't be getting mixed up in this. She shouldn't. He stopped, taking a deep breath, trying to compose himself. When he opened his eyes, there was a mixture of anger and panic there. She had no right to call you, not without talking to me first. I know who Lisa Mansour is, Maya said, and saw Adam freeze again. I researched it. I found the news. Your fiancée, the woman who died 6 years ago. She took her phone and showed the photo from the magazine she had saved. And this one here, is your sister also named Lisa? The same one who called me? Adam looked at the image as if he were seeing a ghost. His breathing became irregular. He sat on the sofa as if his legs could no longer hold him, and put his head between his hands. Yes, he said, his voice muffled. My younger sister. She's 17. She has the same name as our cousin. It's a family tradition to reuse the names of beloved relatives. He raised his head, and there was raw pain there. Lisa Mansour was a first cousin. We were raised together from the time we were babies. In our culture, we were like siblings, but technically we could marry, and our families wanted that union. He paused, his voice growing lower. I wanted it too. I've loved Lisa forever. Not a sweeping romantic love, but a solid love, built on decades of friendship. Absolute trust. Maya sat in the armchair opposite him, her legs shaky, her heart heavy. What happened to her? She was in a car accident 6 months before our wedding. His voice was mechanical, as if he had told the story so many times it had lost its emotion. She was returning from a meeting with the designer who was making her wedding dress. A truck's brakes failed, it collided head-on, she died instantly. Adam, I'm so sorry. I don't want your pity. He stood up abruptly, running his hands through his hair. I want you to understand. I spent 6 years in a kind of limbo, fulfilling duties, managing businesses, existing, but not living. Not really. He approached her, and Maya saw raw exposure in his eyes. Until I heard you on the phone that night, and for the first time in years, I felt something beyond numbness. Because I remind you of her, Maya said, the bitterness in her voice evident. No. The word came out firm, almost desperate, because you are completely different. Lisa was gentle, well-behaved, too perfect. She never questioned, never challenged, never confronted. He held her shoulders, forcing her to look into his eyes. You are stubborn, defiant, real in ways that hurt. You asked me questions that no one else does. You looked at me as a person, not as a title, and that made me realize I was living in a mausoleum, honoring a memory instead of building a future. Maya felt tears sting behind her eyes. So you used me as therapy to overcome your grief. Used you? Adam gave an embittered, humorless laugh. Maya, you destroyed all my defenses in 2 weeks. You made me laugh for the first time in years. You made me want to wake up in the morning because it meant more hours with you. You made me feel alive again. He held her face with both hands, and there was genuine desperation there. You are no one's replacement. You are terribly, frustratingly, wonderfully you. And I fell in love with the Maya who serves tables and argues about loyalty and cries over Lebanese food, not with ghosts of the past. The kiss happened before either could think rationally. Desperate, urgent, charged with 2 weeks of unresolved tension and painful confessions. Maya melted against him, clutching her hands to his shirt. The whole world vanished except for the two of them. When they pulled apart, both were breathing heavily. Adam rested his forehead against hers. Come with me to the embassy tonight. Maya blinked, trying to return to reality. The embassy? There is a formal event, a diplomatic reception at the Saudi embassy. I cannot miss it, but I also cannot spend another night pretending you don't exist. He ran his thumb across her face. I need you there, not as a translator, as the person who keeps me sane. Adam, Maya hesitated. I know who you are. A prince. Saudi royal family. Your world is so different from mine that is exactly why I need you, he interrupted, to remind me of who I am when I am not wearing the mask. Maya should have said no. She should have protected her heart, which was already dangerously involved. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something that completely disarmed her. Fragile hope, fear of rejection, a vulnerability that men like him never showed. What time? The smile that lit up his face was worth any risk. It will be at 7 in the evening. I will send the car to pick you up at 6:30. He hesitated, as if he wanted to say more, but only added, thank you for accepting. And then he left, leaving Maya alone with the decision she had just made and all its implications. The rest of the day passed in an anxious haze. Maya tried to focus on answering emails, organizing documents, anything not to think about what it meant to agree to go with Adam to a diplomatic event. But her thoughts constantly returned to the kiss, the confessions, and the questions that still remained unanswered. He has a sister named Lisa, who called me, who wants to tell me something he will never tell. At 5 in the afternoon, she went back to her room and stood before the closet for long minutes. What was the protocol for attending a reception at the Saudi embassy as the companion of a prince, especially when you had just discovered he is a real prince? She chose the most elegant dress she had bought. Black, long, simple but sophisticated. Nothing flashy, but appropriate. She left her hair down in natural waves and applied discreet makeup. When she looked in the mirror, she almost didn't recognize herself. She was no longer the waitress from Stratford, but she also wasn't, what? A prince's girlfriend? The companion of a member of royalty? The translator. She reminded herself firmly. You are his translator. Nothing more. But when the driver arrived at 6:30 sharp and Maya went down to find the car waiting, her heart was racing in a way that had nothing to do with work. The Saudi embassy at Belgrave Square was imposing in ways that made the Dorchester seem modest. Maya stepped out of the car and felt the weight of the place immediately. Discreet but clearly armed security. Cars with diplomatic plates. People wearing clothes that cost more than cars. Adam was waiting for her at the top of the steps, impeccable in a dark suit. When he saw her, something softened in his expression. He offered his arm and she accepted, letting him guide her up the marble steps. Nervous? He murmured in Arabic as they entered. Terrified, she replied in the same language and saw the corner of his mouth curl into a near smile. In the main lobby, a man in his 60s, with an impeccable gray beard and traditional Saudi clothing, received them. And then Maya saw something that confirmed everything she had discovered. The man bowed. Not a polite nod of the head, but a genuine bow, holding Adam's hand with both hands, stepping back 2 steps before letting it go. Royal protocol, Maya realized. Not for businessmen, for princes. Adam introduced her with a formal politeness that hid any intimacy. This is Maya, my translator and consultant. Translator and consultant. Not the woman I kissed a few hours ago. Not someone important to me. Maya swallowed her disappointment and smiled politely. During the reception, Maya stayed by Adam's side, translating conversations when necessary, observing the dynamics around them, and she confirmed what she already knew. Every person there treated Adam with the deference reserved for royalty. The subtle bows, the respectful tone, the distance maintained. She heard fragments of conversations. The prince is accompanied today. Interesting. Who is the young woman? I've never seen her before. A translator, they said, but his gaze. Maya pretended not to hear, but every word drove the reality deeper. She was in his world now, and she didn't belong. She waited until they were on an empty balcony, away from prying ears, to finally confront him. Why didn't you tell me from the beginning? The words came out low but heavy with hurt. A prince, Adam, a real prince. Not just a wealthy businessman, Saudi royal family. He closed his eyes for a moment, tensing his jaw. Because people change when they know who I am. They become fake, self-serving, subservient. They treat my every word like a royal decree, my every desire as an absolute command. He ran his hand through his hair. I needed someone to treat me as a person, as a man, not as a title. So you lied, deliberately, from the first day. Yes, the admission came out raw. I lied, and it was wrong. But Maya, when you didn't know who I was, you treated me as a person. You argued with me. You challenged me. You were honest in ways no one else is." He moved closer, and Maya saw genuine desperation in his eyes. "I was so tired of lies and masks that when I found pure truth in you, I clung to it. Selfishly, perhaps. But it was the first real thing I had in years." Maya's heart was beating erratically. She wanted to forgive him. She wanted to believe that intentions mattered more than lies. But the girl who grew up without a father, who learned early that powerful men lie, couldn't let go so easily. That doesn't justify hiding who you are. "You're right. You are absolutely right. And I'm sorry." The words came out with difficulty, as if he weren't used to apologizing. "But now that you know the, truth, you need to understand something else." He reached out slowly and tucked a strand of hair away from her face. The touch was light, almost reverent. "I'm not here just for business. I'm here for you." The confession hung in the air, heavy with promises and dangers. And despite the anger, despite the betrayal, Maya found herself wanting to believe. But before he could continue, a woman appeared at the balcony door. Young, perhaps 20, beautiful in ways that looked painted, wearing a luxurious traditional Saudi dress embroidered with gold thread. "Adam," she said in Arabic, her voice sweet but with steel underneath. "Your mother is looking for you." He pulled away from Maya immediately, recomposing his political mask. "Tell her I'll be there in a minute." The woman looked at Maya with ill-disguised curiosity, a silent judgment, perhaps a veiled threat. "Who is your companion?" The question was casual but loaded with meaning. Adam hesitated, and it was that hesitation that broke something in Maya. "My translator." The word fell between them like broken glass. Translator. Not someone important. Not the woman I'm getting to know. Not even a friend. Translator. The woman smiled. A small, satisfied smile, as if she had confirmed something. "Of course, pleased to meet you." The tone was polite, but the disdain was palpable. And then she left, leaving behind a heavy silence. Maya looked at Adam, the pain in her chest physical. Translator. "Maya, it's not like that. No." She raised her hand, stopping him from approaching. "You're right. I am your translator, a temporary employee. That's what we are. And employees shouldn't be on romantic balconies with their bosses. You know it's more than that." "Do I?" Her voice came out broken. "Because I just heard you reduce me to a job title in front of—" "Who was that woman, by the way?" Adam closed his eyes. "Noura, the daughter of an important minister. Our families have a tacit agreement about a possible future marriage." The words hit Maya like a punch. "Future marriage. A political arrangement I never agreed to. Maya, please." "No." She passed by him, returning to the hall. "I'm not listening to any more lies today." Adam caught her arm gently but firmly. "Please, let me explain." "You don't need to. I've already understood everything perfectly." Maya pulled away and kept walking, her head held high, her eyes burning with tears. She refused to shed there, in front of all those people. She crossed the hall straight to the exit, grabbed her coat, and was walking down the steps when Adam caught up to her. "Maya, wait, please." She stopped, turning slowly. "I have nothing to wait for, Your Highness." The word came out heavy with bitterness. "Thank you for the temporary job. The final payment transfer can be made to the account on the contract." "Stop it." "Stop what?" "Stop being honest. Stop protecting myself. Stop recognizing that I will never fit in your world." Her voice broke. "You should try honesty sometime, Adam. Or is that not allowed for princes?" She turned her back and began to walk. And this time, he didn't follow. Perhaps because there were other people watching. Perhaps because the prince's mask was more important than the man underneath. Perhaps because, deep down, Maya was right. Maya walked 3 blocks before stopping, leaning against a wall, finally letting the tears fall. Fool, she thought. Fool for believing it could work. Fool for kissing him. Fool for falling in love. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. "Meet me tomorrow at 2 p.m. Costa Coffee on Kensington High Street. I need to tell you what my brother will never tell. Lisa." Maya looked at the message for a long time. His sister, the 17-year-old girl who had called with mysterious warnings. Against every instinct of self-preservation, Maya typed, "I'll be there." Because if she was going to have her heart broken anyway, at least she deserved to know the complete truth. All of it. Maya arrived at the Costa Coffee 8 minutes before the scheduled time. She chose a corner table, back to the wall, from where she could see the door. She didn't know exactly what to expect from Leysa, but years of living in London had taught her that it was better to be prepared for anything. She ordered a cappuccino and watched the movement on Kensington High Street through the window. December was coming to an end, and the city had that frantic quality of those racing against time before the year closed. At 2 o'clock sharp, a young woman walked in. Maya recognized her immediately because of the eyes. The same green eyes as Adam, the same intensity, but with a softness that he hid behind masks. Leysa wore jeans, a leather jacket, and a colorful scarf. Nothing that screamed, Saudi princess. She scanned the cafe with her eyes, found Maya, and walked straight to the table. "You're more beautiful in person," she said in English with a perfect British accent, sitting down unceremoniously. "The photos I saw don't do you justice." Maya blinked, caught off guard. "Photos? Adam has you as his phone wallpaper. Don't look at me like that. He left the phone unlocked and I'm a younger sister. It's practically my duty to snoop." Despite everything, Maya felt her lips curl into a near smile. "You don't seem to be afraid of me." "Why would I be? You're not a threat." Leysa ordered a hot chocolate from a passing waitress and then turned her attention back to Maya. "On the contrary, you might be exactly what my brother needs, or the complete disaster that will finish him for good." "That's a comforting bit of honesty. Do you prefer I lie?" "I can do that too. I'm a princess. I've been trained in diplomacy since I was 5. Leysa leaned back in her chair, studying Maya with disconcerting focus. "But I thought, you deserved honesty since my brother has been consistently terrible in that department." The chocolate arrived. Leysa sighed. "Let me start the right way. My full name is Leysa Al-Sayed, Adam's younger sister. I'm 17, a student and aspiring aerospace engineer, and currently very annoyed with the men in my family, who insist on complicating everything. The other, Leysa," Maya began, trying to understand, "was my first cousin. From the same family, we have the same name. It's common among us to reuse names of grandparents." Leysa's voice grew softer. "She was 10 years older than me. She practically raised me when my mother was busy with official duties. And yes, she was Adam's fiancée. And yes, she died. And that left my brother broken in a way he's still trying to fix." Maya felt her chest tighten. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because my brother won't tell you. Not the right way. He'll downplay it. He'll say he's fine. He'll pretend 6 years of therapy solved everything." Leysa took a sip of her chocolate. "But the truth is that Adam spent 6 years running on autopilot, doing what was expected of him, being the perfect prince, never complaining, never showing weakness, until he came to London. Exactly, my mother practically pushed him here. She said he needed to live a little before taking on greater responsibilities. And then he found you." Maya shook her head. "He found me because I remind him of her." "No." The word came out firm. "You don't remind him of her, Maya. Leysa, my cousin, was everything society expected. Polite, well-behaved, never contradicted anyone, smiled when told to smile. She was perfect in suffocating ways." Leysa leaned forward, her eyes intense. "You challenged my brother on the first day. You questioned his intentions, demanded explanations, didn't accept vague answers. Do you know how many people do that to him? 0. Everyone agrees, everyone flatters, everyone wants something. You just wanted the truth. And he lied about who he was. Yes, he lied, and it was wrong. And he knows it." Leysa sighed. "But try to understand his side. Adam doesn't know who is real around him and who is performing. When you didn't know he was a prince, you treated him like a person. It was the first time in years he felt normal." Maya stirred her cold cappuccino, processing. "At the embassy, when that woman appeared, he called me a translator. Just that. As if I were nothing. That woman was Noura, the daughter of an important minister. Our families have a tacit agreement about a possible future marriage." Leysa made air quotes with her fingers. "Politics, alliances, the usual. Adam hates her, but he has to be polite. And introducing you as something more than an employee in front of her would be declaring social war. So he hides me. He protects you from the madness that is our life. You have no idea what the Arabic press would do if they discovered the widowed prince is interested in a waitress from London. I don't say this to be cruel. I say it because it's the brutal reality. Maya felt tears sting, but she didn't let them fall. So what am I supposed to do? Accept being a secret? Live in the shadows while he pretends we're just professionals? No. Lisa took her hand over the table, surprising Maya. You should give him a chance to explain. For real. Without running. Without assuming the worst. Because my brother is in love with you in ways that scare me a little, honestly. Did he say that? He didn't need to. I've known him my whole life. I know when he's truly happy, not just pretending. And for the first time in 6 years, he is genuinely, frighteningly happy. Lisa let go of her hand. But now you've vanished, you don't answer calls. And he is going back to that dark place where he feels nothing. I'm not responsible for his happiness. No, you aren't. But you are responsible for giving it a fair chance before judging. Lisa stood up. He's going back home in 3 days. I mean, to our country. If you don't resolve this before then, you'll lose him. Not because he doesn't love you, but because he'll accept that you're too smart to want this complicated life. Wait, Maya called out as Lisa began to leave. The card he gave me. There was a strange message on the back. Read aloud when you are alone. What does that mean? Lisa turned, and for the first time smiled for real. Ah, so he gave you one of his special cards. A technological gadget he ordered from a cryptography company. There's a hidden message that only appears when you speak aloud near the card. Something about voice recognition and reactive ink. She shrugged. Adam is a bit of a nerd when he wants to impress someone. And then she left, leaving Maya alone with more questions than answers. Maya returned to Stratford in a trance. Sarah was at work, so the apartment was empty. She went straight to her room, took the card Adam had given her, and looked at it as if she could reveal secrets by sheer willpower. Read aloud when you are alone. She sat on the bed, feeling ridiculous, but too curious not to try. All right, Adam, let's see what you've hidden here. She cleared her throat and began to read what was written on the card out loud. I apologize for the abrupt departure. Urgent family matters. I will explain everything when I can. Please, do not jump to conclusions. You changed something in me that I didn't know needed to change. Silence. Nothing happened. Maya turned the card over, frustrated. Maybe Lisa was playing with her. Maybe it was just a normal card and… Wait, there was something different. The letters in the corner, the initials she had thought were AAS, were glowing? No, not exactly glowing, but there was a slightly different hue, as if the invisible ink were reacting to something. She brought the card, close to her eyes, and then she saw it. Tiny words were appearing between the lines of the original text, so small they were almost invisible. She had to grab the magnifying glass she used to check for counterfeit pound notes at the restaurant, and she read, her heart racing. If you are reading this, it means you spoke aloud. It means you trust me enough to follow strange instructions, or you're too curious to resist. Probably both. It's one of the things I love about you. I couldn't say this in person because I'm cowardly in pathetic ways when it comes to real feelings. So I recorded it here, in ink that only reacts to the specific frequency of the human voice reading the trigger text. You asked me who I really am. The truth is, I don't know. I've spent my whole life being a prince, a brother, a fiancé, a widower. Titles that define but don't explain. Until you appeared and asked me questions that had nothing to do with politics or money or responsibility. You asked what I like to do when no one is looking. What kind of music makes me cry? If I ever wanted to be someone else. And for the first time, someone wanted to know Adam. Not the prince, just Adam. So here is the truth I can't say face to face. I am in love with you. Not the idea of you, not the memory you supposedly evoke. You. The way you argue when you disagree. How you cry over food that reminds you of home. How you defend the people you love with a ferocity that should be scary, but only makes me admire you more. I know I lied about who I am. I know I put you in an unfair position. I know you have every right to tell me to go to hell. But if you can forgive me, if you can give me a chance to do it right, I will spend the rest of my life proving that you were the best decision I ever made. Find me, please, before I have to go back and pretend you didn't change everything. Adam, who likes jazz, cries at Pixar movies, and secretly prefers fish and chips to any gourmet food. Maya read it 3 times, tears blurring her vision, her chest tightening in painful and wonderful ways. This idiot who drives me crazy, complicated, wonderful. She grabbed her phone and opened his messages. There were 17 unread. She began to scroll, reading them all. Please give me a chance to explain properly. I know I messed everything up, let me fix it. Are you okay? I just need to know if you're okay. I know you don't want to talk to me. I respect that, but I can't stop worrying. Lisa said she met with you. She told you things I should have told you first. I'm sorry for being a coward. I go back to Riyadh in 2 days. If we don't speak before then, I will accept that you have made your decision. But please know that you were real. In a world of lies and performances, you were the only real thing I had in years. And I will love you even if we never see each other again. The last message was from 2 hours ago. Maya looked at the clock. 5 in the evening. She took her phone with trembling hands and typed, "Where are you?" The reply came in seconds. Dorchester, Suite 1504. Why? Because we need to talk. For real this time. Do you want to meet me here in the suite, or do you prefer I come to you? I'll come to you, wait for me. I'm waiting. Maya took the fastest shower of her life, put on one of the outfits she had bought, black trousers, a white shirt, nothing too elaborate, and took the tube to Mayfair. The journey seemed to last an eternity, and 2 seconds at the same time. When she arrived at the Dorchester, the receptionist recognized her and cleared the elevator without questions. On the 15th floor, she walked down the hallway to the suite door, her heart beating so loud she was sure he could hear it from the other side. She knocked on the door. The door opened immediately, as if he were waiting behind it. Adam was barefoot, in jeans and a t-shirt, his hair messy as if he had run his hands through it 1,000 times. Deep dark circles marked his face, but his eyes shone when he saw her. You came. I read the card, Maya said, stepping inside before her courage vanished. The secret message with the magic ink that reactivates with the voice. Very creative, by the way. Did Lisa tell you about the technology? She told me many things, including that you are terrible at emotional communication. Adam laughed humorlessly. She isn't wrong. They stood there facing each other, the air heavy with unspoken things. Maya took a deep breath. I need you to be completely honest with me now. No games, no half-truths, no convenient omissions. Who are you? For real. Everything. Adam nodded, as if he expected this. My full name is Adam al-Sayed al-Faisal, 3rd in line to the Saudi throne. My father is the king's cousin. My mother is from a diplomatic family. I was educated at Oxford, have a master's in economics, and theoretically, I should be preparing to take on ministerial duties when my father retires. He moved to the window, looking out at illuminated London. But 6 years ago, my fiancée died, Lisa Mansour, a cousin I loved like a sister, and whom the family decided would be the perfect wife. I agreed because she was the only person who truly understood me. And then she died, and I spent 6 years on autopilot. He turned to Maya. My family sent me to London this year to renew code. For you're depressed and you're getting in the way of business. I came to close investments, manage projects, and try to remember what it feels like to feel something. And then you found me. And then I heard you on the phone. And for the first time in years, I felt something beyond emptiness. He took a step toward her. It wasn't because you remind me of Lisa. You are completely different. It was because you were real in a world of falsehood, raw truth in the middle of calculated performances. Maya felt tears threaten, but she didn't let them fall. Not yet. You lied about who you were. Yes, you used me as an experiment to see if you could feel again. At first, perhaps, but you destroyed that plan within 48 hours when you started to challenge me, question me, make me think. Suddenly, it wasn't about testing if I could feel anymore. It was about not being able to stop feeling. He closed the distance between them. Maya, I messed everything up. I recognize that. But I'll tell you something I've never told anyone. You scare me. The intensity of what I feel for you terrifies me, because it means I have something to lose again. And losing people is the only thing I don't know how to do. So what do you want from me? The words came out low, heavy with emotion. Everything, he said simply. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to argue about nonsense. I want to introduce you to my mother and watch you. Win her over in 5 minutes because it's impossible not to love you. I want to build a life that is ours, not the protocols, not the expectations, ours. And when your family doesn't approve, when the press destroys me, when the reality of your life crushes the fantasy, Adam held her face with both hands. Then we face it together, because the alternative is living without you, and that future seems unbearable. And then he kissed her, different from before, not desperate or urgent, but deep, charged with truths finally spoken. Maya melted against him, running her hands into his messy hair, the whole world disappearing, only the two of them remaining there, finally honest, finally without masks. When they pulled apart, both breathless, she rested her forehead against his. You are a complicated idiot. I know, and I'm going to regret this. Probably, but I'll try. On one condition. Adam pulled back enough to look into her eyes. Anything. No lies. Never again. No matter how hard the truth is, you tell me. Always. I promise. He kissed her forehead. No lies. And you will introduce me to your mother as your girlfriend, not as your translator. Girlfriend sounds too formal. I prefer the love of my life. Maya laughed, and it was her first genuine laugh in days. You're surprising me, and you're stuck with me now. They stayed in each other's arms for a long time, just existing in the same space, without pressure, without an agenda, until Adam's phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again, and again. He sighed, picked up the device, and his expression changed when he saw who was calling. It's my mother. I need to take this. Go, Maya said, stepping back. I'm not running away this time. Adam answered in Arabic, his voice formal and respectful. Maya didn't understand everything, but she caught enough. Emergency. Brother. Hospital. I need to return immediately. When he hung up, his face was pale. My older brother. Another accident, serious this time. The words came out shaky. I need to be on a plane in 3 hours. Go, Maya said immediately, even though her chest tightened. Your family needs you. But we just go, she repeated, firmer. And when you resolve what you need to resolve there, come back. And we'll continue this. Adam pulled her into a tight embrace. Will you wait for me? How long? I don't know. Weeks, maybe. It depends on his condition. Maya pulled back, looked into his eyes, and saw genuine fear there. I'll wait, she promised. But you come back. This is not a goodbye. It's not a goodbye, he agreed, kissing her one last time. It's a see you soon. 2 hours later, Maya was back in Stratford, alone, looking at her phone, waiting for the message that hadn't arrived yet, and she began to wonder if she had made the biggest mistake of her life. 3 weeks. 21 days since Adam had boarded an emergency flight to Riyadh, leaving Maya in London with a promise and a void that hurt physically. The first week he sent messages every day. Short, tired, but consistent. The surgery lasted 8 hours. He is stable. Spent the night at the hospital. Thinking of you. My mother is pressing me to stay longer. I'm trying to resist. In the second week, the messages began to space out. 1 day on, 1 day off. Then 2 days of silence. Maya tried to understand. Family crisis, royal responsibilities, an entire world she didn't know demanding his attention. But the part of her that grew up without a father, that learned early on that people disappear, began to build walls. Sarah noticed, of course. He'll come back, she said one morning, finding Maya looking at her phone for the 100th time. Maybe. He will. Or he'll realize that life there is easier without London complications. Sarah sat beside her on the worn sofa. Do you really believe that? Maya didn't answer because she didn't know. She had returned to the Sapphire Grill. Joseph had welcomed her back without questions. The shifts were long, her feet ached, and the tips were meager. It was as if the weeks with Adam had been a fever dream. Except, she still wore the clothes he had bought. She still woke up at 7 expecting the driver. She still grabbed her phone at every notification, thinking it would be him. And at the back of the closet, kept like a treasure, was the card with the secret message she reread every night. On the night of the 23rd day, Maya served a table of 8, balancing heavy plates with a forced smile, when she heard a commotion at the restaurant entrance. Loud voices, Joseph trying to calm the situation, other waiters stopping to look. She turned, irritated by the distraction, and froze completely. Adam was in the middle of the dining room, suit perfectly tailored, stubble on his chin, deep dark circles under his eyes, and a desperate gaze, scanning the restaurant until it found her. Time stopped. All conversation ceased. Customers stopped eating. Joseph stood agape near the entrance, and Adam began to walk toward her, crossing the room as if no one else existed. Maya placed the tray on the nearest table with trembling hands. "What are you doing here? I needed to see you." His voice was hoarse, tired, loaded with raw emotion. "Now. I couldn't wait any longer. You disappeared for 3 weeks. I know, I'm sorry. My brother, the surgeries, my family trapping me in endless meetings about succession and responsibility." He ran a hand through his messy hair. "But every minute I spent away from you was torture." Joseph approached, clearly uncomfortable. "Maya, maybe it's better to resolve this outside." But Adam ignored him completely, focused only on her. "Come with me." "Adam, I'm working. I know. And I will compensate Joseph for every minute you aren't here." He turned briefly to the manager. "How much does she earn per hour? I'll pay for the entire month, now." Joseph blinked, speechless. Maya felt anger burn in her chest. "You can't just show up and buy my time as if—" "You're right, I can't." Adam took a step closer, and she saw genuine desperation in his eyes. "But I'm asking, please, give me 10 minutes. If after that you want to go back to work, I'll leave and never show up unannounced again." The entire room was watching now. Customers pretended not to pay attention, while obviously paying a great deal. Maya looked at Joseph, who gave a shrug in silent permission. She took off her apron and tossed it to him. 10 minutes. They stepped out the front door into the cold London street in January. She crossed her arms, more for emotional protection than against the chill. 3 weeks, Adam. 3 weeks of increasingly rare messages until there was almost nothing. I understand a family crisis. I understand responsibilities. But you left me here not knowing if you'd return. I said I would return. Words are easy, especially for people who live in worlds different from mine. Adam closed his eyes for a moment, tensing his jaw. When he opened them, there was a determination there she hadn't seen before. "You have every right to be angry. I should have maintained better contact. But Maya, my brother nearly died twice in the first few weeks. No one knew if he would survive. And meanwhile, my family was pressing me to take over his duties officially. Take over his duties? He is incapacitated. It will take months of recovery, maybe years, and someone needs to step up. I am next in line." He ran a hand over his face, exhausted. "They wanted me to stay, permanently. Get married, settle down, produce heirs, do my duty." Maya's stomach sank. "And you agreed?" "No." The word came out firm. "I said I won't make life decisions based on temporary crises, that I need time to think, and that there is someone in London I need to see before I decide anything. I don't want to be the reason you abandon your family. You aren't. You are the reason I want to build a life that is mine, not just the fulfillment of expectations." He took her hands, warming them between his. "But I can't do this alone. And I won't ask you to drop everything for me without showing you exactly what you're getting into." Maya frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I want you to go to Riyadh with me, meet my family, see what my life is like there. Understand exactly what I'm asking of you before you make any decision." Her heart raced. "Go with you? To Saudi Arabia? For 2 weeks? All expenses paid, obviously. Not as an employee this time, but as—" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "As the most important person in my life who needs to see everything before deciding if she wants to be part of it. Adam, I can't just leave the country for 2 weeks. Why not? My grandmother, work, Aunt all. Sarah needs financial help. I'll resolve all of that. Private medical assistance for your grandmother while you're away. Compensation for Sarah. A talk with Joseph." He squeezed her hands. "I know it sounds like I'm buying everything, but it's not that. It's removing obstacles so you can make a real decision, not one forced by circumstances." Maya looked at him, at the desperation and hope mixed in his eyes, and felt her defenses begin to yield. "And if I go and decide I can't live in that world, then you come back and I will respect your decision." His voice grew lower. "But at least it will be an informed decision, not based on imagination or fear, but on reality." She took a deep breath, the cold air stinging her lungs. "When?" "Tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" she nearly shouted. Are you crazy? Completely. About you. He smiled, and it was the first genuine smile she had seen on him. But if you prefer, we can wait a few days. It's just that every day that passes is a day my family uses to pressure me to stay, and I'd rather have you there as my anchor. Maya should have said no. She should have been sensible, cautious, protecting the heart that was already dangerously exposed. But when she opened her mouth, what came out was, I need at least 3 days to organize everything. His smile widened, transforming his entire face. 3 days. I can make that work. And then he kissed her right there on the street, in front of the Sapphire Grill, not caring who was watching. When they pulled apart, Maya rested her head against his chest. You're going to make me regret this. Probably, but it will be an interesting adventure. 3 days later, Maya was at Heathrow, holding a passport she rarely used and a suitcase Sarah had helped her pack. Are you sure about this? Sarah asked for the 10th time while they were folding clothes. No, but I need to know. I need to see with my own eyes what he is offering me before I decide. And if it's horrible, then I'll come back and I'll know I made the right decision to refuse. And if it's wonderful? Maya didn't answer, because that possibility was scarier than any other. Adam was waiting in the VIP lounge, impeccable again in a dark suit, clean-shaven, hair-styled. But his eyes still carried that intensity that unnerved her. Ready? Ready is a strong word. Let's go with terrified but determined. He laughed, took her suitcase, and guided her to the boarding gate. The first-class flight was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. Seats that turned into beds, food served on real china, champagne she refused because she was too nervous to drink. Adam sat beside her, took her hand, and stayed that way during takeoff. You're pale, he observed. I don't like flying. You don't like it, or you've never flown enough to know? Both. She closed her eyes as the plane gained altitude. And I'm going to meet your royal family. No pressure at all. They are going to love you, or they're going to hate me for being completely unsuitable for you. Adam turned her face toward him, forcing her to open her eyes. You are the only suitable thing that has happened in my life in years. And if they don't see that, that's their problem. The flight lasted 7 hours. Maya tried to sleep, but her nervousness wouldn't allow it. She watched 2 movies and read magazines until finally, Adam pulled her to lean against him, his fingers tracing calm patterns on her arm. Stop thinking so much, he murmured. Just let it happen. Easy to say when you grew up in this world. Nothing about my life is easy. But you make it seem possible. When they landed in Riyadh, the sun was rising. Maya stepped into the airport and the heat hit her like a physical wall, even inside the air-conditioned terminal. Everything was different. The signs, the sounds, the smells. The Arabic she spoke fluently suddenly felt inadequate for the speed at which people were conversing. Adam guided her through VIP immigration, a process that took minutes instead of hours, and outside, an entourage was waiting. 2 black cars, tinted windows, 4 security guards in suits, and a woman in her 50s, incredibly beautiful, wearing a black silk abaya with gold details, a perfectly arranged hijab, and eyes that evaluated everything with a sharp intelligence. My mother, Adam murmured, and Maya felt her stomach tighten. The woman walked straight toward them, ignored Adam completely, and focused on Maya. So you are the reason my son has refused 3 marriage proposals in the last few months. Maya straightened her spine, met her eyes, and replied in Arabic, I am Maya, and I am here to understand his world before I make any decision. Adam's mother blinked, clearly not expecting fluent Arabic. And then, surprisingly, she smiled. You have courage. I like that. She turned to Adam. She stays. It wasn't for you to decide that, he replied, but there was affection in his voice. Obviously, but I approve. Provisionally. They got into the cars. Maya went with Adam and his mother, while the security guards went in the second vehicle. During the journey from the airport to wherever they were going, his mother asked questions. Direct, no nonsense, evaluating every answer. Do you know how to cook? Reasonably. Do you want to have children? I haven't thought about that seriously yet. Are you willing to convert to Islam? I respect all religions, but I won't pretend to hold beliefs I don't have. Maya felt Adam grow tense beside her, but his mother only nodded, as if honesty were worth more than the right answer. "And do you love my son?" Maya looked at him, saw the surrender in his eyes as he waited for the answer, and told the truth. "I am learning to love him, but love is not enough when the worlds are so different." Finally, someone sensible. Adam's mother leaned back in the seat. "You're right, love is not enough, but it's a good start." The palace was exactly as Maya had imagined. Immense, opulent, intimidating. Guards at every corner, discreet staff, perfectly maintained gardens. Amira personally guided her to the guest quarters, a suite larger than the entire apartment in Stratford, with a marble bathroom and a view of the gardens. "Rest today. Tomorrow I will show you the madness that is our life. And then, you decide if you want to be part of it." When the door closed, Maya collapsed onto the bed. Her body was exhausted. Her mind was spinning. What was she doing there? A soft knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in." Adam entered, still in his suit, but there was a tension in him that hadn't been there at the airport. "Did my mother scare you too much?" "She is intense." That's an understatement. He sat on the edge of the bed, maintaining a respectful distance. "But she liked you, which is rare." "How do you know?" "Because she called you sensible. It's the highest compliment she gives." Maya sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. "Adam, this place, it's a lot. Palace, guards, your mother interrogating me about religious conversion and children. How do you think I can just step into this life?" He turned to her, his eyes serious. "I don't think you can just step in. I think it will be hard, complicated, sometimes impossible. But I also think you are the strongest person I know, and if anyone can make this work, it's you. And if I can't, then we find another way. We live in London, or Dubai, or anywhere that works for both of us." He took her hand. "But at least spend these days here. See the good parts and the bad, and then decide." Maya nodded, too tired to argue. "Now rest. Tomorrow the trial by fire begins." He stood up to leave, but Maya called him back. "Adam?" "Yes? Thank you for bringing me, for letting me see everything before I decide. Thank you for coming." The following days were a whirlwind. Amira kept her promise and showed her everything. The official duties, the public events where every word was weighed, the endless meetings about politics and family alliances. But she also showed the private moments. Family dinners where they laughed and argued like any normal family. Lisa, the sister, bonded with Maya immediately and dragged her off on trips to the traditional market. "Adam is different with you," Lisa said while they were trying perfumes in an old shop. "Lighter, like he used to be before Lisa died. Doesn't it feel strange to you, talking about her, having the same name?" "At first, yes. But I learned that memories aren't prisons. They are just part of what made us who we are." She chose a rose perfume and dabbed it on Maya's wrist. "You are good for him. You don't let him off easy. I don't know if I'm good enough for this life. No one is. At the beginning. But you learn. And Adam will be by your side." On the 5th day, there was a formal dinner with distant relatives and political allies. Maya wore a dress Amira insisted on lending her. Elegant but modest, appropriate for the context. During the dinner, an older man made a comment in Arabic about the foreigner who thinks she can enter the family just by speaking our language. Before Adam could respond, Maya turned to the man and said in perfect, formal Arabic, "I speak the language because my grandmother taught me that culture is a heritage, not a weapon. And I am not trying to enter any family. I am trying to understand if this family deserves for me to consider being part of it." The silence was absolute. And then Amira began to laugh. A loud, genuine laugh breaking all the tension. "She will do," Amira declared. "She will definitely do." After dinner, Adam found her in the gardens, where she was breathing fresh air to calm her nerves. "You just challenged one of my father's most important advisors. He was rude first." "I know, and it was perfect." He pulled her into a hug. "You're doing better than I expected. I am constantly terrified. You don't look it." They stood there under the starry desert sky, and for the first time since they had arrived, Maya felt that maybe it could work. "Adam." "Yes?" "Ask." He pulled back enough to look into her face. "Ask what?" "What you've been wanting to ask since I arrived here. I see it in your eyes every time you look at me." Adam took a deep breath, and then he knelt right there in the gardens, under the stars. taking her hands. Marry me. Not because it's convenient or politically advantageous. Not because my family expects it. But because imagining my life without you is impossible. Because you challenge me. You make me better. You make me want to be more than just a title. He took a box from his pocket and opened it, revealing a ring that sparkled. Under the moonlight. Marry me and let's build a life that is ours. Divided between London and here. Between your world and mine. Between who we were and who we can be together. Maya looked at him, at the ring, at the raw exposure in his eyes, and she realized the decision had already been made. Perhaps since the first day at the Sapphire Grill. Perhaps since the phone call in Arabic. Perhaps since the first kiss. Yes, she said, finally letting the tears fall. Yes, I will. The smile that lit up his face was pure relief and joy. Adam slid the ring onto her finger with hands that trembled slightly, and then he pulled her into a hug so tight it took the breath from her lungs. You've just made me the happiest man in the world, he murmured against her hair. I still can't believe I said yes to a prince. You didn't say yes to a prince. You said yes to me. And there was so much truth in those words that Maya had to close her eyes so as not to fall apart right there. The following months were a whirlwind of preparations, family negotiations, and constant learning about how to navigate two completely different worlds. Amira took charge of the planning with an efficiency that was both impressive and frightening in equal measure. She wanted a traditional ceremony in Riyadh, with hundreds of guests from the Saudi royalty and elite. Maya wanted something intimate in London, with her grandmother, Aunt Sarah, and the few people who really mattered. They reached an agreement. A small civil wedding in London, followed by a larger celebration in Riyadh to satisfy the family's diplomatic obligations. 2 weddings, Maya commented one afternoon, looking at the endless list of details Amira had sent, because one wouldn't be complicated enough. Welcome to the real life, Lisa said on the other end of the video call, laughing. Adam's sister had become an unexpected ally and a genuine friend in the months of preparation. At least, you won't have to do 7 consecutive days of parties as the full tradition requires. My mother is being generous. Generous. Right. But despite the chaos, despite the moments of absolute panic when Maya wondered what she had gotten herself into, there was Adam, present in every important decision, firm when the family pressures grew too intense, gentle when she broke down with the anxiety of not being good enough for that world. You are more than good enough, he said one night. 3 months before the wedding, when he found her crying in the bathroom after a particularly tense dinner with distant relatives. You are exactly what I need, and anyone who doesn't see that doesn't deserve to be in our lives. Maya's grandmother had the most surprising reaction of all. I always knew you were destined for something greater, she said when Maya finally told her, showing her the ring. Not necessarily a prince, but someone who saw the gold that you are. Sarah was, more practical. Are you sure? Because marrying into royalty isn't a fairy tale, Maya. It's work. It's sacrifice. It's living under a constant microscope. I know, Maya replied, and I'm terrified. But when I think about living without him, the idea is even scarier. So you really love him. More than I thought it was possible to love someone. The months flew by in preparations, trips between London and Riyadh, and endless meetings about protocol and expectations. Maya learned to navigate political conversations, to smile graciously when others wanted to criticize, and to maintain her posture even when she wanted to scream. But there were also moments of pure joy. The first time her grandmother visited Riyadh and cried seeing the mosque at sunset. The dinner where Amira finally relaxed and told embarrassing stories about Adam as a child. The afternoon Lisa dragged her to the traditional market, and they bought beautiful fabrics just because. And the quiet. Nights with Adam, when the world disappeared and it was just the two of them, planning not the wedding but the life that would come after. There are days when I still can't believe this is real, Maya confessed one night, lying beside him in the palace gardens looking at the stars. Good days or bad days? Both. Good when I remember I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you. Bad when I remember the rest of my life includes royal protocols and endless diplomatic dinners. Adam laughed, pulling her close to him. I'll make a deal with you. For every boring diplomatic dinner, I'll take you to a hidden restaurant in some random city where no one knows us. Promise? Promise. And Maya believed him. Because in the months since she had said yes, Adam had proven repeatedly that his every word was the truth. Finally, 6 months after that proposal in the gardens under the stars, the day arrived. The reflection in the mirror didn't seem real. Maya looked at herself in the wedding dress, ivory silk with Lebanese embroidery on the sleeves, a modern cut that Amira had insisted on ordering from a designer in Beirut, and felt a wave of unreality. 6 months. 6 months since she had said yes in the gardens of Riyadh, and now she was in a room, about to marry a prince. "You're shaking," Sarah said, adjusting the veil. "Do you want me to ask for more time?" "I'm not afraid," Maya replied. And it was true. Just processing that this is real. "It is real, Habibi." Her grandmother appeared at the door, impeccable in a lilac dress, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "And you deserve every second of this happiness." The ceremony took place in a room transformed into a hanging garden. Half of the guests wore traditional Arab attire, while the other half followed the formal British dress code. Moroccan lanterns hung from the ceiling alongside arrangements of white roses. The imam who would conduct the Muslim ceremony talked quietly with the civil celebrant who would legalize the marriage under British law. 2 worlds, 1 celebration. Maya entered to the sound of Fairuz, the Lebanese singer her grandmother loved, and every step toward Adam seemed to suspend time. He was at the end of the improvised aisle in an impeccable white thobe, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that stole her breath. When she finally reached his side, Adam held her hand and whispered in Arabic, "You are devastating. You don't look bad yourself," she replied in the same language and saw his smile widen. The ceremony was short, bilingual, and charged with emotion. When it came time for the vows, Adam turned to her completely. "Maya, when I heard you on the phone that night, I had no idea I was finding the other half of me, the half that challenges, that questions, that makes me want to be better." His voice faltered slightly. "I promise to honor you in both languages we speak, in both worlds we habit, in all the days we have." Maya wiped away a tear that escaped before she spoke. "Adam, you taught me that courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to love despite it. I promise to be your anchor when the weight of the title is too much, your truth when the world demands masks, and your home, no matter which continent we are on." When the imam declared them married and Adam kissed her, the room exploded in applause and zagarits, the cries of celebration her grandmother would let out at Lebanese weddings. The party followed, and it was a wonderful chaos. Arabic music alternated with British jazz. The food was a complete fusion, mezza alongside gourmet fish and chips. Lisa, the bridesmaid, danced with Thomas and Oscar. Amira talked animatedly with Sarah about plants, discovering a shared passion for gardening. When Maya and Adam finally managed a moment alone on the hotel balcony, she leaned against him, exhausted and perfectly happy. "We survived," she said. "The wedding or the last 6 months? Both." He kissed the top of her head. "Now comes the easy part. Just spending the rest of our lives together." Maya laughed. "If you think that's going to be easy, you clearly don't know me well enough. I'm counting on that." The apartment in South Kensington was perfect, large enough to host family when they visited from Riyadh, small enough to still feel like a home, not an estate. Maya insisted on keeping something. In London, a safe harbor between their constant travels. More than a year had passed since the wedding, and their routine had settled into a careful balance between 2 continents. 3 months in London, 2 in Riyadh, then back again. Her grandmother had improved so much that she now traveled with them occasionally, delighted to see Beirut again on trips Adam organized. On a Saturday morning, Maya was in the kitchen preparing coffee when she felt Adam's arms wrap around her from behind. "Good morning, Your Highness," she said without turning around. "I still hate it when you call me that." "I know, that's why I do it." She turned in his arms. "Did you sleep well?" "I would have slept better if you hadn't gotten up at 5 in the morning." "I couldn't sleep." Adam frowned, studying her face. "Are you nauseous again?" "A little." "Maya." There was genuine concern in his voice. "Let's schedule an appointment with the doctor today." "No need." She bit her lip, trying to hide a smile. "I already went yesterday." "Yesterday? Alone? Why didn't you call me?" "Because I wanted to be sure before I told you." She took his hand and placed it over her still flat belly. 10 weeks. A boy, according to the ultrasound. There was an absolute silence. Adam went completely still, his hand over her belly, his eyes wide, processing, and then he collapsed. Literally, he sat on the kitchen floor, pulled Maya into his lap, and hid his face in her neck, his shoulders shaking. "Adam, are you crying?" "No." The voice came out muffled, obviously lying. "Are you happy at least?" He looked up and his eyes were red, but his smile was radiant. Happy doesn't begin to describe it. Terrified doesn't either, nor ecstatic. He held her face. "A son, our son, our son," she repeated, and the reality finally sank into her as well. "My God, we're going to be parents. You're going to be an incredible mother. You're going to spoil him completely." "Obviously." Adam kissed her slowly, reverently. "When do we tell the families? How about tonight? Your mother is arriving from Riyadh, remember? And Grandma is coming for dinner. My mother is going to have a happiness attack. Your mother is going to start planning his education before he's even born." Adam laughed. "That's also true. They stayed there on the kitchen floor for a long time, just existing in the moment, absorbing the news that changed everything once again." "You know what's funny?" Maya said eventually. "If my bus hadn't been late that night, I wouldn't have run. If I hadn't run, I wouldn't have arrived stressed. If I hadn't arrived stressed, maybe I would have answered the hospital phone outside, not in the dining room. And I never would have heard you speaking Arabic. And none of this would have happened." She pressed her forehead to his. "A late bus. 20 minutes that changed my whole life." "It wasn't 20 minutes. Adam." Kissed her again. "It was you. Your courage, your truth, your refusal to accept less than you deserved. I was just lucky that the universe put you in my path. Not luck. I was the lucky one. How many waitresses end up marrying princes? How many depressed princes find women who challenge them on the first day and refuse to pity them?" Maya smiled. Adam's phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. "Answer it," Maya said. "It might be your mother." It was. And from the fragments, Maya caught of the conversation in Arabic, Amira was having some minor diplomatic crisis involving tonight's dinner. When he hung up, Adam sighed. She wants to know if she can bring the Kuwaiti ambassador. Apparently he's in London and it would be wasting a networking opportunity. "At the dinner where we're going to announce my pregnancy?" I said no. "Liar. I said I was going to ask you." Maya thought for a moment. "Let her bring him. It'll be funny to see his face when he realizes he had dinner with his pregnant daughter-in-law before the whole family knew. You are devilish. I married a prince. I learned fast." That night, the apartment's dining room was crowded. Amira had arrived with the ambassador as promised. Maya's grandmother had brought Sarah and a new boyfriend no one knew. Lisa showed up as a surprise, on break from university in Boston. The food was a complete fusion, like everything in their lives now. Kafta alongside shepherd's pie, fattoush sharing space with Caesar salad, baklava and sticky toffee pudding for dessert. It was during dessert that Maya and Adam exchanged looks. He nodded subtly. She took a deep breath. "So," Maya began, and the whole table went silent. "Adam and I have an announcement." Amira dropped her fork immediately, her eyes shining. "Are you moving permanently to Riyadh?" "No," Adam said quickly. "Did you buy a bigger house?" Sarah tried. "Not exactly." "For God's sake," Lisa interrupted. "Maya is pregnant. It's obvious." There was a silence that lasted exactly 3 seconds. And then came the chaos. Amira stood up so fast she almost knocked over her chair, came around the table and pulled Maya into a crushing hug, speaking in Arabic so fast that Maya got lost halfway through. Her grandmother began to cry and laugh simultaneously. Sarah screamed and hugged Adam, who looked slightly traumatized by the intensity. The Kuwaiti ambassador, completely lost, raised his wine glass. "Congratulations." "Thank you," Maya managed to say between the hugs. When everyone finally calmed down and returned to their seats, Amira held Maya's hand across the table. "Boy or girl?" "A boy," Adam replied, pride obvious in his voice. "A name?" Grandma asked. Maya and Adam exchanged looks. "We haven't decided officially yet," Maya said, "but we're thinking of Khalil. It means faithful friend in Arabic." "Khalil al-Sayed al-Faisal," Amira tested the name. "Perfect. Khalil." "For his friends," Adam added, "because we're going to raise him to be a person before he's a prince." And we're going to raise him between two worlds, Maya continued. London and Riyadh, Arabic and English, tradition and modernity. Just like us. Laysa raised her water glass. To Khalil. May he inherit his mother's intelligence, the stubbornness of both, and none of the royal family's complexes. Amen, Adam and Maya said together. Later, when everyone had left and the apartment returned to silence, Maya found Adam on the balcony, looking at illuminated London. She wrapped her arms around him from behind, her still flat belly pressing against his back. What are you thinking about? That 2 years ago I was in this city completely lost, functioning but not living. And now, he turned around embracing her. Now I have you, and in a few months we're going to have a son. And somehow, my life has become more complete than I ever imagined possible. Who would have thought an Arabic phone call would change everything? It wasn't the call. He kissed her forehead. It was you. Your courage to answer the phone even knowing you could get in trouble. Your honesty in negotiating with the nurse. Your refusal to let me off easy when I lied. You fought for us when it would have been easier to give up. You fought too. Because you were worth every second of uncertainty, every difficult confrontation, every moment of fear. Adam placed his hand over her belly. And now we're going to have a son who will grow up knowing that real love requires courage, that different worlds can meet, that families choose each other as much as they are inherited. Maya felt tears sting. You're going to be an incredible father. We'll learn together, like everything we've done, like everything we're going to do. They stayed there embraced under the London sky, two worlds intertwined in one person, about to create a third life that would carry both. And Maya thought of the waitress who had run through the streets of Stratford 2 years ago, terrified of losing her job, with no idea she was running toward her entire future. If she could go back and tell that Maya what was to come, the prince in disguise, the hidden truth, the unlikely love that became inevitable, would she believe it? Probably not. But now, with the ring on her finger, the child in her womb, and the man she loved holding her as if she were the most precious thing in the world, Maya knew one truth. The best stories are not the ones we plan. They are the ones we have the courage to live when the universe offers a late bus, a phone call in Arabic, and a chance to say yes to the improbable. I love you, she whispered. I know, Adam replied, and she felt his smile against her hair. And I will never get tired of hearing it. Somewhere in London, a bus was late. A waitress ran through the streets. A phone rang at the perfect moment, and love, as always, found its way. Some truths do not ask permission to change everything. If this story resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the intense new stories to come. In the comments, tell me, would you choose love, even knowing the truth? And if you stayed with me until the end, click the hype button. This makes these stories continue to exist and reach further and further. Thank you for watching.